if I'm not mistaken, this man was literally the first person that you guys asked to surprise me with a phone call on my birthday, correct? Because you know what this man means to me. You know what this man means to me. Being a native New Yorker and loving this man and how he carried himself and did his business for all those years with the Yankees. Now a manager of the Miami Marlins, kind enough to call in a few days later with his Marlins taking on the Phillies later on today in Philadelphia. Donald Arthur Mattingly joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Don Mattingly?
Hey, Rich. How are you?
I am fine. I'm always better for talking to you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, we're hanging in there. This division's a little crazy. Have been pretty good, consistent. They've probably been the one team that's been consistent in our division. I think the Reds have been. We play good for a few games, then we play bad for a few games. So, hoping they come down to earth and we get hot.
Well, one of the things I wanted to hit you about, talking about, this season, and was a comment that you made in a few weeks ago now, and this is the first time I've gotten a chance to talk to you, where, we were talking about all of the no-hitters and the lack of hitting in Major League Baseball and the number of strikeouts and the shift taking hits away and how things are working. You use the word unwatchable. Not saying it's all unwatchable, but on occasion unwatchable. What did you mean by that when you said that, Don, a few weeks ago?
Yeah, without being the guy that I don't want to be the guy that's fashioned, through the hitting, but it's I think as a general fan of the game, just like there's times when nothing goes on. And I really was referencing me watching like parts of the World Series last year. Mm-hmm. I remember watching I think the last, 2 innings or something like that. It was like there was one ball put in play. And it's like, that's tough to watch for me. And I was really referencing more from the fans' point of view.
Yes.
And my point of view watching it on TV. You feel like you could walk away, come back and catch the game right back where it was, and nothing really went on.
So
I think that's a problem, and I think MLB is really addressing that problem and talking about ways to bring. We have to have action. We have to have a game that people like watching.
So what would you do, Don? What would you do if I said what you would suggest would be implemented by baseball to incur some action on that front? What would that be for you?
Yeah, I think some of the things that they're trying to get the data on, ways to open up the stolen base again, where you have more opportunity. They're talking about making the base just a little bit bigger, which just shortens the routes just a little bit. I think we have to encourage action in the game as far as being rewarded for putting the ball in play. And I hate that. There's certain things I don't like eliminating some of the shifting. And to me, I look at that, and I know you do the NFL, and I look at that, eliminating the shift is like telling the defense you can't play this way. You got to use only 3 linebackers, and you got to use only 3 defensive, however many defensive backs, and everybody else has to be on the line of scrimmage. That's where shifting drives me crazy, because I think this has been a problem. It's been coming for a long time, right? It started probably 15 years ago, where the strikeout began to get devalued. And once you start devaluing that, it just became like a strikeout's an out. And next thing you know, it's 20 a night, right? And there's, we were striking out probably, I felt like 12, 14 times a night. We only get 27 outs, and it's like there's 13 other chances to try to score. And so I think there's got to be ways to put things where we're incentivizing, stolen base, a guy that can put the ball in play, a different way of thinking about the game as far as, just all of the 3-run homer and don't matter if you strike out, things like that.
Well, I mean, and in terms of the shift that you bring up, Don Mattingly, manager of the Miami Marlins here on the Rich Eisen Show, and you brought up the NFL. The NFL, when there was a big problem with points on the board, and you remember Mel Blount, from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Don, and he basically, because he was such a huge player, not just in terms of talent, but in terms of height and weight and how he could move at that position. And he was such a game changer. Like literally, whenever I see him at the Hall of Fame, it does look like he could still give me 10 snaps, Don. They did change the rule where you had to, they did change the way that you could play defense and be penalized for touching somebody in a certain way at a certain amount of yards from the line of scrimmage. I mean, they did change it. And so there are rules as to how you can play defense without being penalized for it. And I would love to see, if you are in the lineup card as a shortstop or a second baseman or a third baseman, there's only one side of the field that you're allowed to be on. That's it. And I'm wondering if would you take that as somebody who does know the value of placing people in a certain spot on the field, Don?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think that's really, if you've been following it all, like Theo Epstein has become a part of MLB and they're doing a lot of studies on the shifts and, the bases, moving the mound back, not changing the strike zone, but making it automated where the guys know the strike zone. And I think you're right. We have to do some things that make the game more. It's like in the, you talk about the NFL. I watch basketball too. So like the NBA, you can't touch anybody anymore, right? You can't bump, you can't arm check, you can't hand check. And so now that becomes like more of an offensive thing that people like. So I think there's a lot going on that says, hey, we've got to be more a game that fans enjoy. And all leagues seem like they change rules and things to, tweak the game to make it a better game to watch, at least for the fans. And I know everybody fights that. Sometimes the old school is like, oh, we can't change the game. But I think you have to. You have to stay with the times and be current.
Don Mattingly here on the Rich Eisen Show, and one of the many reasons why I loved watching you play, Don, was you could hit to all fields. You could hit to all fields with power. And striking out to you was something that was a major negative. Like it was something that it was a rarity to see because you could put the ball in play and, there was a stigma to it. And how do you speak to a player today now as somebody who can counsel this sort of thing about cutting down on strikeouts and valuing putting the ball in play? How do you coach it? How do you manage it, Don?
Well, it's something you can talk about, but it's, honestly, this has been something that's gone on with all organizations where they have devalued the strikeout over time. And I think it's coming back where there is value to more value put on putting the ball in play. Mm-hmm. But like anything else, we got to reward. Guys know they go to arbitration and you get in that salary process that if you're, putting the ball in play more, but you're not hitting the ball out of the ballpark or you're not doing any damage, your worth goes down. So we don't value it as an industry. So when you start putting value on putting the ball in play and moving a runner over and guys that don't strike out as much there is a value to that. When that starts happening, you got a better chance of getting more players like that believe in that. But right now, organizations basically get the ball in the air, launch angle, exit velocity. That's all you hear a lot of that. Now, there is movement towards more contact, swing in the zone, guys that make contact with the ball in the zone. There's all kinds of stats, obviously, in every sport. Mm-hmm. But those are all stats. But if you don't value them contract-wise, guys aren't going to change, right? We've been doing this for 10, 12 years now, so the kids coming up high school and college, they look just like the pros. Mm-hmm. And they're swinging up and they're punching out, and that's just the game they grew up in.
What do you think of the check-in pitchers? How do you think that's going? First couple weeks of that now. We're in a second full week of it, Don. What do you think?
I think it's went well. I think it's something that had to happen. I think I was a little naive on it. I was a little naive on the steroids too, honestly. I was thinking, there's not many guys doing it. And obviously we found out there was a lot of guys doing it. And I think what happened with the sticky stuff, because it really started with players basically. Everybody's always tried to have a little bit of of tack on the ball. And players in general would say, hey, I don't mind, I want a guy to have some kind of grip. I don't want to get hit in the head.
Right.
I want him to know where it's going. And I think that got taken to another level. And that's really what happened, where when you heard more and more guys coming back going, that ball's not moving naturally. You grow up in a game that you see the ball move, and where it's supposed to go, it starts one spot, it's going to another. And when balls start going places they shouldn't go to unnaturally, it's like, I don't know what to do with that, right? And so you heard more and more players coming back saying that thing's moving in a way I've never seen a ball move before. And that told us that the pitchers were going too far, right? They've taken it to an advantage now. They've taken it from, okay, yeah, I need a little grip. Okay, we're all good with that. A little sunscreen, rosin, or whatever. And that turned into super glue, where you could actually hear the baseball coming off guys' face.
No kidding.
When they would throw it, you would hear. It's like, it was amazing. And then, nowadays they can check spin rates. Guys were having spin rates that were past their prime numbers ever, right? So they just kept going up and up, which makes it tougher and tougher to hit. So I think hitters just got fed up with it. And I think it's a good thing. And we're going to have to stay on it, because it won't be long. The guys they're going to start giving up some hits and getting hit harder, and they'll be trying to find ways to use it again.
No kidding. So you're saying you're in the dugout. I mean, you could see the way ball moves too from there, and you'd talk to your hitters as they come back, and you'd have a quick confab and agree with each other like that. That is not right. There is something up with that. That's what you're saying. You'd have those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And for me, not necessarily being able to see that movement, because I'm not up there. These guys see it.
Right.
But obviously you hear it. And that's what's amazing. And then we'd get balls back into the dugout on a foul ball. The umpire throws it out. And it was so sticky that I remember a guy, and I'm not going to use his name because it's been out there too many times anyway.
Right.
That the ball came back. I got some on my finger, and it was almost like when you use super glue and you glue something, and inevitably you always get that on your fingers.
Right.
And I couldn't hardly get it off. It took me like 2 innings of peeling at my finger to get this stuff off of my hand. So I was like, this is a whole nother level of sticky, right? And guys were just using it to an advantage, to an athletic advantage, and really kind of in a sense like steroids, right? You're using that. People don't want to know about a guy that is using super glue to get a better breaking ball. They want to know a guy that's actually got a good breaking ball, because it's him.
So when you say they got to stay on it, because it does seem to me, though, allowing you as a manager, Don Mattingly here on the Rich Eisen Show, allowing you as a manager to have the right to ask somebody to be checked in the middle of an inning, similar to what happened with Girardi and Scherzer the other day, that there's got to be something about that. Or do you as a manager appreciate having the ability to go to an ump at any point in time and say, check that guy?
Yeah, I think what's happened is it's gotten to be where they're going to check in between innings. They check 2 to 3 times a game on a starter. Every reliever gets checked when he's coming off the field. It hasn't been a big thing, but it's getting to be, I'm afraid that it gets to be like so quick and so nonchalant that guys figure a way to do it. But now it does open up the door for a manager, because it's always been available to you as a manager to check a guy. But you also knew that you probably had some guys on your club that were using some type of something, that you were all of a sudden this was going to be back and forth with them checking your guys and you checking their guys. So it was almost like an unwritten that you're not really going to check. Unless it's totally obvious. A guy's got, a big old patch on his arm or hand, then you would do it. But in general, you weren't doing it. Now I think it's opened the door to be able to say, hey, we think this guy's, because your video guys are getting it too. Our video guy's sitting back there watching this thing, and he's like, hey, he's going to his neck every time right to the ball, right? So now you can go out and say, hey, our guy's got this guy going right to his neck and to the ball. You're able to do that now. And I think it's going to be accepted that you can do that instead of it being a back and forth between teams.
This is wild. This is crazy. This is not what you signed up for either, is it, Don? I mean, you know what I mean? You just want to manage some ball, and it just seems
really.
There's
a lot of things. there's a lot of things that you don't sign up for, but you know what? That it all comes with the territory, and it's it's the evolution of sports in different ways, right? I mean, you see it all the time. We got guys with iPads. You're able to watch pitchers pitch in between innings, and you can see what plays in between innings. Just like I watched I watched Sunday football like a lot of other people, and you see the guys looking at iPads and where the plays are and what was open and where I could have went differently, and so you have all that instantly, and so you do evolve as a sport, and that part is kind of actually fun and challenging to be able to keep evolving with that.
Before I let you go, tell me about Mattingly Charities. How's your charitable work going, Don, and how could people get involved and fill up your coffers? What do you got for me there?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking, Rich. Again, I know we've talked about this in the past, and obviously this last year, or probably during the pandemic, has been a tough year for a lot of nonprofits. We were lucky in a sense because of the Tops came out with a crazy card that ended up making us a bunch of money as a charity. But it's for underserved youth. It's for kids in the worst situations. It's turned into more educational than anything. We've done sports. We support reading programs. We've put in STEM labs. Support different athletic things that's going on for kids. Summer camps. It's really a way to hopefully help our communities just get stronger, and for the kids that kind of are falling through the cracks, to make sure they know that there are some choices to make, and they have to make them. But you want them to know there's available choices to make if they're willing to work for them, and there is places to go. And that's really what our mission has been, is to really reach those kids that aren't getting or don't even know about the services, right? And there's opportunities for them. They just have to make those choices.
And MattinglyCharities.org for people to learn more and donate and learn how they can be part of what you're doing. I really appreciate the call, Don. I love our chats. I cherish them, quite honestly. And my now soon-to-be 8-year-old daughter would be livid if she knew that I had you on and I did not send you her best, since her middle name is your last name, as you know, Don, I think. So she sends her best.
I do know that, and I appreciate. You don't know how much that means to me, really, honestly. I've had some different families traveling around that it's mostly little girls, it seems like, not too many boys, which is cool. But I have evolved from dogs and cats to some little girls,
yes,
which is kind of cool. But I seriously, I am always, you're humbled by that somebody likes you enough and respects you enough to.
Oh yeah.
Obviously kids are special to all families. To put your name on them is really a humbling thing for me.
Yes, and then also because her first name is Taylor, which is fascinating enough, is your son's name, right? Taylor. Her name is Taylor Mattingly Eisen, and because of your middle name, her initials are literally TME, as in too much Eisen, which she is, Don. And she hits to all fields. She hits to all fields. She makes contact where she can catch, she can throw, she can do it all. She's literally a 5-tool player, my daughter. So you should be proud of that.
Right. We're going to make her be an athlete.
I love it.
We need athletes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And she, just like her dad, she complains about the shift. So it's all good. We're all part of the same family.
Okay.
Thanks for the call, Don. I really appreciate it. You be well. Let's touch base down the road, please.
That sounds good, Rich.
Really appreciate it. You got it. That's right. Don Mattingly. Don Mattingly, number 23. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.